When you have pirates in the United States Navy teaming up, you know things about to go down. I cannot stress to you how much Captain David Porter hated pirates, but thankfully he's not in the story, so I don't have to. Some background before we talk about the Battle of New Orleans, which happened January 8th, 1814, was so the United States gained the New Orleans territory in 1803, the Louisiana Purchase, and the first governor in that territory was a Virginian, William Claiborne. This was a very difficult time to control. You had pirates, the backwoods people, the undesirables of society, basically. So you had Governor Claiborne, King of the Pirates John Lafitte, and the Navy Captain John Shaw, who was in charge of the New Orleans Naval Station. They all agreed that they won't interfere too much with each other's businesses. Like, John Shaw wouldn't interfere with John Lafitte's pirate empire and wouldn't make arrests with the townspeople, and the townspeople and the pirates wouldn't make John Shaw's life difficult with his navy station. Then Captain John Shaw gets replaced by Master Commandant David Porter, and young David Porter just completely destroys this whole fragile ecosystem. He's arresting pirates, he's arresting the rogue townspeople. He's doing his job and just cleaning this backwoods. Nobody liked that, and so everyone was relieved when Master Commandant David Porter gets sent back to Washington. And this is right before the War of 1812 happens. Master Commandant David Porter, he becomes captain of the USS Essex, and then he goes on his island adventures in the Pacific somewhere, basically just goes off. And then Captain John Shaw comes back, and everything's back to normal, if you will. The War of 1812 is now starting, and so Captain Shaw has to get the New Orleans station ready for war. But because this is backwoods country, Washington does not care about what goes on back here, and so Captain Shaw has a shortage of men. All the gunboats are completely useless and rotted, and there's a lack of supplies like gunpowder, arms, and whatnot. And then in August 1812, a hurricane comes and basically destroys the majority of the already useless gunboats at the station. The new Secretary of the Navy, William Jones, replaces Secretary of the Navy Paul Hamilton, and Jones thinks that Shaw is being wasteful with the resources because looking at all the ledgers, like, why are you paying for this? Why are you paying for that? Why do you need this? Why do you need that? Gee, I don't know. It's just the supplies there in the New Orleans station's lacking, and Captain John Shaw has to buy a freaking ship because a hurricane came to destroy the gunboats, and there's like no gunpowder here. So how are you supposed to defend the ship that he just bought and the Navy station in general? So Secretary of the Navy William Jones decides to replace Captain Shaw with Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson because maybe there is a better chance that this younger commander will be more compliant to the Secretary of the Navy's orders. And when Daniel Todd Patterson comes to the New Orleans station, he understands the problems that Captain Shaw was going through, and it's... But while he was in New Orleans, Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson gets intel that the British have been arming the Creek Indians close by in Pensacola because they are planning an attack on Mobile, Alabama. And there is a possibility that New Orleans would be attacked also sometime in the winter. Blah, 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 war happens during the War of 1812, and you have General Andrew Jackson. He just had victories with Horseshoe Bend and yada, yada, yada. He thinks that there's going to be an attack at Fort Ballard, and so he asks Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson to give him men to go to Alabama, but Daniel Todd Patterson said, no, I think my men are better used here in New Orleans. While this is happening, King of the Pirates, John Lafitte, he is approached by the British. The British want him to help them out, but because John Lafitte's brother Pierre is in prison, is in jail, John Lafitte decides to side with the Americans as a bargaining chip to get his brother released. December 12th, the British fleet anchored outside Louisiana, the east side, and so Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson sends his Lieutenant Thomas Ap Casby Jones 5 gunboats and tells him to watch the British movement. Then the Battle of Lake Borgne happens. Even though the Battle of Lake Borgne was an American loss, it was a sacrificial loss because that battle bought General Jackson and Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson enough time to fortify New Orleans and get themselves ready for what will happen at the Battle of the Rodriguez Canal. But December 23rd, General Jackson decided to fight the British at one of the plantations that they took over because the numbers were in his favor. And so he had Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson use his vessels, the USS Carolina and USS Louisiana, to fire point-blank range at the British. Yeah, the British fought back, but then they got tired of the USS Carolina, and so they blew her up. The USS Louisiana wasn't going to share the same fate as her sister ship, and so they sailed away. But luckily, they managed to rescue the crew members of the USS Carolina, who also rescued 2 of the guns. And so Master Commandant Daniel Todd Patterson, he ordered the gun crew from the USS Carolina to go with General Jackson and be the naval support for the Battle of the Rodriguez Canal.